If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, make sure and click the subscribe button, like, comment, let us know what you think about the episode. If there's a particular guest or topic that you'd like to hear about or from, let us know. We'd love to be able to take your comments and get them on to future episodes. I'm really excited for today's episode. I'm going to be chatting with Central Valley HHO, and we're going to be talking about hydrogen for fuel economy on a diesel truck, and then also ways that it can be used to clean a DPF if you got one down, or be able to make it last longer over the long haul. So I'm looking forward to chatting with them today. Before we get to it, I want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors that helps make the Diesel Podcast possible. Kershaw Knives has a 40% off MSRP code for you. If you go to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code 25TDP40. Get your 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money, get some cool gear if you're in the market for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different options for blade steel, blade shape, different handle designs, opening mechanisms, and their whole lineup's designed to meet any budget that you might have. So we appreciate them offering that discount code just for Diesel Podcast listeners. All right, let's get to today's podcast, talking about hydrogen as a way to pick up fuel economy and then also be able to clean and make a DPF last longer. Scott and everyone on the team, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. I'm really looking forward to you guys being on today. There's a lot of great information I found on your YouTube channel. I know our audience is going to love it. So I look forward to learning more about your company, the products, cleaning DPFs, and just a whole bunch of different uses for diesel trucks. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Tell me a bit about the company, about you guys, what you focus on, and then we'll jump into some of the products specific to diesel trucks.
So we started Central Valley HHO back in 2008, basically more for fuel economy. But the longer we were doing it, and we live in good old California and all the emission laws where the DPF problem started. So we figured out that the hydrogen is actually good for cleaning the DPF. We do different systems. We do onboard, which is our journey system. And then we also do the cleaning, which is the revive. I'll let those guys talk about that in more detail in a minute. But we've done a lot of R&D. We've gone to multiple labs. We've done lab work in Australia, Colorado, Texas. We've been to 3 or 4 labs in California. We actually have our California exemption order for vehicles, medium-duty trucks, the on-road diesel trucks. It was only up till 2010, but we're in the process of getting the one for the newer trucks as well. And along with that, we're going to be getting verified. So I'm working on that right now so we can be a verified solution because we get such great results at the lab. We also have our CE certification. We've got our international standards for Australia because we're doing work with Holcomb over there. And to do in the mining and all that, you have to meet their safety standards. So we've done a lot of testing and put a lot of hard work into it. And these two here have worked together, and I'll let them tell you now about the onboard and the cleaning system that we have.
So what we've done is, we've really focused mainly on the onboard, but then of course we started doing the cleanings, and we'll mainly talk about the cleanings right now. So what we've done is we had onboards first. We were analyzing data, and what we do is we do put a tracking device on every piece of equipment that we do to monitor speed, altitude, the amount of hydrogen we're producing every 5 seconds. So we have data collected on every engine that we do. So we went to this particular gentleman here, his company, and we installed a few onboards, and we started really analyzing the emission side. Yeah. And I know this might be a little hard to believe. We get in the results that we get now, because I have a microcontroller to actually control the exact amount of hydrogen to work with the diesel engine, with the diesel fuel. And we're actually getting negative NOx numbers out the tailpipe. So that's a pretty crazy number to have. But yeah, what it is him and I have worked together as him being a good tech mechanic, and we've actually focused on watching regen cycles. So we've shortened up the regen cycles. We're watching what amount of hydrogen needs to be put in on a regen cycle. So that's what we've been focused on. We developed this cleaning unit, about 5 years ago?
It's been about 5 years.
About 5 years.
Since we started working.
So he's a mechanic, and of course, all the guys are really going to want to hear from the mechanic. But so I've really written the software to work engine specific. So we're working, with Packard, Cummins, Detroit, all the manufacturers. So we actually wrote the software to work for each engine application. So what I want him to do is just tell him a little bit about himself, what he does, what he's seen in the hydrogen cleaning technology.
Yeah. So basically what we ended up with was, I'm going to start with how we began a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we started with an onboard unit, strictly looking at fuel mileage, right? That was the focus. Introducing hydrogen in the intake system, right? I pulled the initial, basically what we determined was pulling the filter apart for a maintenance clean, right? You take it, have it thermally baked, blown out, weighed, all that stuff. Everybody knows the normal type of procedure. I pull it out and it's clean. Going, what are you talking about? Why is it clean? So I called my guy that services us and here, let me know what I don't know. What am I not seeing here? He says, no, it's testing good. We don't even need to do anything. Okay. Threw it back on the truck. It's an over the road highway truck, big sleeper, just goes, it literally was going, running the south route from New Mexico to California and back. That's all he did. 6 days a week, then come back up. And so every 4 weeks we were doing an oil drop on it. So he accumulated 300,000 miles in like a year and a half. I didn't hardly touch maintenance wise, didn't have any problems, but I was like, it's got to be dirty by now. So pulled it again and it was cleaner. Okay. This was a used truck. And I'm going, what do you mean? I don't understand. So,
How many miles were on it?
So this time the truck had about 650,000 miles
Wow.
total, but there was 300,000 miles on that filter since we touched it. When I pulled it apart the second time, I'm going, there's no way. Okay. So call the filter guy. We called these guys, says, hey, what's going on here? We were looking for fuel mileage, but there's something more, right? So then we go, okay, you know what? Let's try a interval of hydrogen for DPF maintenance. And that's what we started doing. Me and Scott worked together and says, okay, let's try this amount for this engine size, for this horsepower, and see what happens. And we just continue to experiment with different types of different types of engines, different manufacturers, and across the board from your original EPA 10 engines all the way to now our EPA 20 engines, your GHG 20 engines, right? And we've kind of figured out the right amount and the right time, right situation. But what we found is still improved fuel mileage, okay? Still better DPF maintenance. The fleet that I manage we're about 65 trucks big, okay? So we're not like, a mega carrier or anything. We're an ag company, and so we haul hoppers and we do low bed and we do flatbed and we do, just miscellaneous, right? So our fleet is diverse, and we use the same process on every truck. So basically what I try to do is when I inspect the truck and I do an oil drop, I try to do a cleaning. Okay. I don't always get to do it. I don't always get the truck for an extra hour, but that's what I try to do. All right. And so what we found is I don't have to pull filters anymore unless I have a catastrophic failure. I lose an engine, I lose an EGR cooler, I lose a turbo, those kind of things. But beyond that, I don't do it anymore.
And it's how many years have you been doing the cleaning now? It's been 4 years?
It's been like 4 years since we started this protocol.
So explain him how cleaning's done.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not
So-
Stop talking about
Yeah.
pouring
Oh
the
yeah,
filters.
and so like a cleaning with hydrogen, what we do is we warm up the machine, warm up the truck, introduce hydrogen into the intake system, and then basically perform a forced regeneration, which is just a maintenance, is what it's supposed to be, just to clean soot, right? When you have a high soot load, it's not going to resolve your ash problem in theory, okay? However, if I've got 500,000 miles on a DPF, I should have had to pull it because of the ash load already.
Yeah.
I haven't had to do that. Okay, I've got trucks that have 500,000 miles and haven't had an ash load accumulation, haven't had an ash load service. They're at 40% ash load, not 80 or 90% ash load like they should be. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the solution. This is the future. You know what I mean? If we're going to be required to run DPFs, then we need to run with hydrogen.
I mean, we're incinerating all that ash inside that DPF with a cleaning and your normal DPF regeneration cycle.
Yep.
And unlike a lot of people in the industry who believe that they just go up and just dump hydrogen into the engine, it's not actually just the hydrogen that's performing this. This guy's written the software where he's matched specific recipes of hydrogen to specific engine perimeters. And by using a system, I guess, that as it's delivering the hydrogen, it's not even producing. What kind of hydrogen are we producing?
We're producing a ortho hydrogen, ortho oxygen, which is 4 times stronger than normal hydrogen. A lot of people really don't understand that. So there's an energy yield there that's much stronger. But there is a focus with the hydrogen and the oxygen. The oxygen is playing a super important role completing the combustion in the combustion chamber, along with the hydrogen. So there's a lot that goes on with our technology versus most of the hydrogen companies out there.
Yeah, we're producing a dry gas.
Yes,
Sure.
it's a very dry gas.
It
Mhm.
does not turn back to water in the combustion chamber.
Okay.
So we're not
So
pumping
yeah, a
water
lot
to
of the
engine, yeah.
companies because we've been to the labs and tested with other hydrogen companies, a lot of them, they create more steam, which makes the hydrocarbons go up, and why they can't do the same thing with completing the burn and getting rid of the soot and ash. So
what's interesting is our onboard unit will keep the DPF at 0.01 the whole time. No back pressure. Yeah, it's crazy.
Roughly how long does a cleaning take on let's say a pickup truck?
You want me to go ahead?
Anywhere from 45 to 70 minutes, depending on basically what the load of the DPF is. You know what I mean?
So it's pretty
If you're
quick.
Yeah.
like just maintenance, you might be that 45-minute mark. But if you're in a D-rate type situation, it could be 70.
So yeah, the standard Ford light duty trucks and the Duramax is what I think you're talking about. Those are usually about 30 minutes, huh?
Those are
Pretty fast. So the
Yeah.
light duty trucks are pretty fast.
Because we have some people that just want maintenance.
Yeah.
They see the benefit and understand. And then we have some people that call us when they're at a 911 position and their truck won't do but 10 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, that's
Please help. I don't know what to do. Dealer said it's 10 grand.
well, yeah, and we've
Right.
actually helped a
Freaking
lot
out.
of people
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
where
Right off the side of the road.
where they're
Yeah.
they're going to have to replace their complete exhaust system, and we can actually clean it out and keep them on the road.
Yep.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Are those emergency situations where you're in fail safe? And
Yeah.
because I think that's when like a lot of our listeners, that's when it kind of jumps up on their radars when they're stuck, and then Ford or GM or Ram tells them it's
Yeah,
8 to 10,000 and you got to wait 6 months because we don't have them.
Yep.
So what's the process like? Say when you do have one of those emergency situations, maybe it's not on the side of the road, but maybe it's at a diesel shop or something like that. How mobile is it? I'm trying to think of like a shop owner out there who's thinking, I need a solution for this because I don't want to take the DPF off, send it to some place, have it baked, hopefully it works, or maybe, try some of the chemicals that are out there. How would it work for the professional shop owner and then being able to offer this or work with you guys or come up with a solution for their customers?
So the box is right next to me. We put it in the back of a pickup truck and bring it to you.
And it weighs about 80 pounds.
So it's very mobile. So we go to locations often.
Okay.
We just, back of a pickup truck. We've used a Tahoe, to transport it before.
So now William is getting it all set up. So we're actually offering that now with the machine. We're setting up for mobile services, service centers, and actually at some of the big fleets, they're going to want them in their shop.
Yeah.
So
Right now,
that's-
we're working with some of the fleets to make that box part of their actual equipment that's in the shop. And we're recommending that every time they bring a truck into PM, do just the oil change, just add that to part of the PM process. It's a 45-minute thing. And if they do 4 times, 5 times a year, you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can forget having the problems with DPF. It keeps it clean enough that we don't have to pull them.
And it
That's
also
what he's doing.
It also keeps their fuel economy up too, because you're not having all that back pressure.
And the
on
urea. The urea is a big one. We've done some data tracking and we're using less as about 58% less urea on every single truck.
Yeah.
That is a huge savings just in that alone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm thinking of so many questions that we get from listeners. I'd say a lot of them are pickup truck owners. Some of them have fleets, but there's that tremendous fear of, I have to leave this DPF on my truck. They understand that, I think, now. And they're afraid of the cost of it, or really it's the downtime. Maybe it's not even the cost, but they might not be available.
It's the cost. It's the cost.
In the
I've got a
downtime.
client right now. He just spent $14,000 on one truck. He told me on the phone, he said, I got 56 more sitting in the parking lot and I cannot do this.
Yeah, that would add up.
Yeah.
That adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
While we're trying to get the word out, right?
Yeah.
As far as like in that shop when it's part of their maintenance schedule, how do you guys direct people? Say they've got 10 6-7 Cubbins trucks, but then they also have some medium duty stuff. How do they know the process to follow, or how does it vary, or how would the end user be able to navigate different platforms?
You want to touch on that, or?
Well, so basically the way me and Scott have worked together to develop this is there's multiple settings on this piece of equipment. Okay. And so if you're a person that can utilize the software to diagnose, troubleshoot, and throw a 6-7 into a regen and a medium duty truck into a regen, that's all you need to really know how to do. And then we will provide you with information on this engine size and this horsepower, put it on this set. For this engine size, you know what I mean, for a medium duty, and then for a severe duty, heavy duty, put it in this set.
So
You know
we
what I
would set the machine up for that particular location, what their needs were, and put the settings in there for
And,
what
and
they
then
could deal
educate
with.
them on how to utilize it.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's
Yeah,
literally just a push of a button
Yeah.
and selecting the right setting.
And so what we do to prove the technology is he plugs into the J1939
Or OBD2.
OBD2, either one, excuse me. And what he does is he's recording the back pressure numbers. So when it elevates, he gets that number, and then when it's done, he gives you a number. So that's how. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so we're looking at outlet NOx, inlet NOx, and we're focusing on our temperatures to make sure we maintain regen temp, and then we're making sure that we get it clean. You know what I mean, thoroughly. Meaning, where's the soot load when we started? Where's the soot load when we're done? And then a lot of times we're facing a trouble truck, is what I'll call it. You know,
Mhm.
that truck that's ran for 250,000 miles with no after treatment maintenance whatsoever, that is now stuck or in a shop
In
or
D-rate.
broke down and in D-rate. And a lot of times, you know, it depends on the severity. You know, is it damaged? Is it face plug? What the situation is? How we'll address it, right?
Right.
So, for instance, on a big face plug type problem where you just got, I don't know, 2 point something, 3 point something psi on your inlet for pressure, you got a face plug. And so what we will do is oftentimes the vehicle won't go into a regen because it thinks it's so broken, right? And so what we'll do is we'll introduce hydrogen at a somewhat elevated RPM for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then we'll go run around the block at full tilt, full load, as fast as it'll go, for as much load as it'll go, to clean it out. And then we'll run the regen process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are for severe cases.
Yeah, those are the
So
severe.
those are some severe, situations.
I saw a video that you guys had on YouTube that was really great for showing. It was a truck and being able, like, I think it was in fail safe, it was derated, and it had on the dash, it showed, I think it was extreme. I don't remember the exact
Yes.
wording, but it wasn't doing very well. And then through the process,
Yeah.
how it goes all the way down, and it made it click for me, because for years, that's just what I hear about this particular issue. And I think kind of going back to the beginning, as you guys had mentioned, with having testing, whether it's Carbio testing or any number of different testing you guys go through, that's something that's definitely on the radar, not just of truck owners, but then also the professionals that are out there and are looking for solutions. They want to use something they can confidently use and not get in trouble for, depending on their local laws or state laws.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we're in the state with the strictest laws, so
Yeah.
we're really good at getting through with those.
So
So
if we can cut it in California, we can cut it anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's
I had a
definitely true.
politician tell me, "You get the key to California, you get the key of the
Key of-
world."
It's true. It's true. There's another part of this that I is another YouTube video that I saw. I think, Scott, you sent it to me, and it was about, I think it was on a 2007 Ram, and this hydrogen system was installed on the truck, and you showed the fuel economy, bone stock, driving it around, and then with the hydrogen system. I know there's going to be a ton of questions that truck owners are going to have, and they've asked me to have a guest on to talk about hydrogen as it pertains to diesel. And they've been really excited, and they're hopeful for it. How does it work on, like for a truck owner out there that wants to run something like this? How is the kit set up? How is it controlled? How do they use it?
Okay, so that particular truck you're talking about, that is our onboard unit, which is this white box over here. That's a
Okay.
pretty small unit. It'll go underneath the tunnel cover of a pickup truck. It has to be in that box. There's a lot of geometry inside that to make that work. but it's set up engine specific. So that unit that's in that truck is literally programmed for a 6.7 Cummins engine. So
Okay.
basically at idle all the way to full throttle, we're making a specific amount of hydrogen to get those results. And we have done extensive exhausting testing on that truck to have zero emissions coming out the tailpipe while driving down the road on that truck. So it's real live data on that particular truck.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. And that's why you see it at point, it's 0.01 or 0.01 the whole time with hydrogen. And it's pretty crazy because on that actual video, we actually turned the hydrogen off for a while so the DPF would get dirty. And then we did that whole analysis. So I don't know if you're aware of it, but Gale Banks makes a big deal about this. For every pound of back pressure you lose, you're putting on that DPF before it comes out, the exhaust pipe, you're losing 4 pounds of turbo pressure to the inlet. That is a huge difference. So if you have 3 PSI back pressure on that DPF, you're almost losing half of your turbo pressure into the engine. And that's why all these guys that have, the Duramaxes and all that really get on their trucks, they'll come to me and I'm losing top end power, but I have no light. So I'll go in and plug in into the J1939 or OBD2 port. And I'm on, look, even at idle, you got 0.5 pressure. But then when you're on the throttle, you're up around 2.5, 3 pounds of pressure. As you saw in that video, I'm driving down the road at 70 and it's got 3.6, back pressure. So you lose a lot of power when that DPF is not clean, even on a new vehicle, even a brand new vehicle, 6,000 or 7,000 miles, you're already in the 10% range of back pressure gain compared to it being brand new.
Yeah.
So that's why that gain was so huge. But we do that with a lot of people. I do a lot of F-150s and Duramaxes, like I said. And it's funny because the customer will call me right back within a couple of days and goes, man, my truck is getting over 20-something miles a gallon. Never got that before. And I go, that's because the DPF is so clean. So it lasts for what? On a light-duty truck, about 20,000 miles? Somewhere in there, about 20,000 miles.
That's even
With the
just
carbon
with
cleaning.
the cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that.
But the onboard is on all the time.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Power Stroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out.
All the time.
Say I put one on my 6.7 Cummins, how would I? So it lasts about 20,000 miles.
That's for the carbon clean side, but the actual onboard, which is the dogs that you saw in that video, it stays clean the whole time, because all you do for the onboard is you add distilled water inside that box in the back about every other tank of gas. And it might eat up about 300 milliliters of water. That's it.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, is how would I how would I refill it or be able to keep it going over time? So you guys make it really, really easy that way. I think kind of what my next question would be is, what does the install look like? Say I'm just, I'm listening to this podcast. I have a 6.7 Cummins. I love this idea. How much time am I looking for? Should I take it to a shop? How involved is the install on the onboard system?
We like to install them for the people just because we're certified to do that for that technology. We do have a few people around the world that are actually certified to do this, but the install usually is only about 3 or 4 hours to do the install, because what we do is we put an optional sensor. We use a Cummins sensor, and it talks to my computer. So we never touch the computer in the truck. So we put our own sensor in there that reads the turbo pressure from 0 to 30 pounds. And we data log and actually follow the curve of the factory computer to get these results. So there's a controller that goes up front in the dash. It's just a little box about this big. The unit goes in the back, and you'd run a power ground and a turn-on wire up to the front. And then, of course, that Cummins sensor that you just put in, and then the hydrogen hose. So it's not really that complicated on the installation. There's just a few main things that have to be done to make sure that, the unit doesn't overheat. But we have so much safety and everything with our units. And also, our units have GPS for the warranty. So we're actually monitoring your truck, how fast it's going, how much hydrogen it's producing, how well the system's operating, all that. So there's a lot to the unit more than just putting hydrogen engine, but that data is really nice to have. And of course, we give you a login so you can see your performance on the truck.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Now, as far as with other model trucks, do you guys have plans to offer those for, or maybe you currently do, for different Duramax engines at different year ranges that are out there, or the Ford Power Strokes?
We do every single engine in the world.
We've done from
Every single engine.
we've done from 2-liter engines all the way up to 89-liter ships over in the Netherlands. So it can be any engine, and it can be gas, diesel, or even CNG. So we can put on anything.
Yeah, we map it for each engine.
I know when we were talking about the 6.7 Cummins a bit, and I know listeners will go, well, ask them about the LML Duramax or the 6.7 Power Stroke. That's what I have, and they're always curious about how that works. What kind of questions, or what are common questions that you guys get, whether it's about the cleaning and the maintenance, or the onboard, or what a fleet owners ask you? What are some common things you guys come across from potential customers or clients that you already have?
Who wants to touch on it? Because you're the mechanic.
So a lot of questions that ask is like, when do I come see you again? How long is this going to last? And like I says, I like the idea of, if you're going to do preventative maintenance on your truck or your pickup or whatever, that's when you should do a cleaning, if you're going to do a cleaning, right? As far as onboard goes, some of the questions are, how often should I maintenance it? It's annual. Okay, the unit itself, right? Which is very, very simple. It's not a difficult process. Probably takes half hour.
Yeah, it's half an
40
hour. We just
minutes.
flush them out with distilled water, put a fresh batch of electrolyte on it, and after that, all you do is just keep adding water about every other tank of gas.
And
Yep,
that's a big question.
That's the
That's a
big
big
question.
That's
Well,
a
and
huge
then-
question.
And then
Yeah.
also, do I have to add electrolyte? You don't.
Right. No,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
they always
only
want to
do
know
it
that.
the first install and when you do the maintenance once a year.
So a Duramax or a Ford truck or the Cummins, they honestly only swallow about this much water per tank. So in 2 tanks of gas, you would add about 2 of these bottles. That's about it.
Okay.
Of just distilled water.
Yeah. And then some of them, if I put more hydrogen in, is it going to give me all kinds more power? Not necessarily. Can you tune it and give me just all kinds more power? Because everyone wants power, right? We're in the diesel world. Power, power, power. That's the focus for a lot of people. More hydrogen doesn't mean more horsepower.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to give you a little extra. That's not going to benefit you. Okay. Yeah. It's tuned specifically to your truck. That's a big question. Happens all the time. And me and him played because I wanted to know, and I'm from the diesel world. I'm a mechanic. More gas and more air means more power. Well, more hydrogen means more power too, right? Wrong.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we get that a lot. Like, I just did an episode with a fuel additive company, and they said the same thing. People say, well, if cetane's good. So can I just, triple the dose and get more power out of it? So I'm glad that you brought that up.
No.
Exactly. But the system does give you more horsepower
It
and
does.
torque. It
It
does
does.
do that.
Yep.
But it's not keep adding more and more. It's going to give you more. But it gives you on average.
It's about 10 to 12% on average. We can actually push it farther, but if I push it farther, what does the computer do, Scott?
Yeah, it'll put you in limp mode. It'll derate you.
Yeah. So with the computer has making so much extra power, it just derates. So we just put it underneath the bell curve, the right amount. But we have some hot rodded style diesel engines that we have done. We've actually tuned and got a lot more power out of it. So I don't know if you saw the one video we did, what was the big 18-wheeler where we gained 490 pounds of torque. Those engines are over in Australia and they are tuned for heavy output because they use train trucks over there. So we ended up going over there and doing some dyno testing, and we were only drawing 23 amps off the alternator, and we gained 490 pounds of torque, and we used 52% less fuel to do that. And you never seen a bunch of mechanics scratch their heads going, this defies everything, because usually it takes more fuel to make more power. So it's the complete opposite with our technology, and it had 0 emissions coming out the tailpipe. So that's pretty impressive.
Is it making this power by allowing a more complete burn or atomization of the fuel in the cylinder?
That's
On the piston?
that's exactly what it's doing.
It's
So
utilizing the wasted
Yeah.
fuel in the cylinder.
yeah, so we're using hydrogen as a catalyst, and we got the precise amount. So we just right at that top of that bell curve so that we get the best results we possibly can.
That's interesting. I think that the industry and the market has needed something like this for so long. It almost felt archaic in years past how you could address these types of issues, be it with the DPF, or a lot of guys had a 5.9 common rail. The 6.7 came out, or they got a 4th gen or something like that, or they got one 5th gen now, and they're not used to the same economy. They notice it and they see it and they ask, well, what can I do? And as you guys know, being in California, there are some aftermarket parts and things you can do, but you don't really notice that big of a difference like you used to on the older ones. So this seems like it addresses a couple different issues. It addresses the issue of the DPF, and almost like taking an hourglass, a sand glass, just flipping it over, and you're like, well, I know I'm going to have to spend a lot of money at 100,000 miles or 120, whatever it is. And then the economy side of it and being able to get some of that back. So I like how it addresses both two major concerns.
It gives you power, it gives you mileage,
Yeah.
and it saves you on some maintenance costs.
And you're less urea. I mean, it's just crazy, the benefits, like 13 benefits that we actually documented on these trucks. I mean, gosh, it's a win-win.
So here's one of our original stories Scott probably forgot about. There was a guy, one of the first trucks we did here. He called us up, and he had tried a hydrogen system before, but it wasn't a really good one, and it just made a certain amount of hydrogen. And he knew it worked. He goes, I seen it work, it quit working. He goes, I found you guys. He goes, because I'm in California, he goes, I have to put an aftermarket DPF on my truck. And it was a Cat 13 liter Cat. He goes, I'm going to lose my horsepower and I'm going to lose fuel economy. I know it. So he wanted to put our system on. So we started monitoring his truck, and we put the hydrogen system on. So his baseline was 5.3 miles to the gallon. And we got him up over, it was 6.5 miles to the gallon with hydrogen. Okay. So he was ecstatic because he got this fuel economy increase. He could feel the horsepower and everything. So then he had to put the aftermarket filter on.
Poor guy.
So I said, I need you to do me a favor. I go, I need you to turn the hydrogen off. I want you to put the filter on, and we want to know what the filter is going to do, what your fuel economy would have been without hydrogen. So he agreed, and he put it on. He had no power. His fuel economy dropped to 4.8 miles to the gallon. And he was just like, he couldn't handle it. And he was driving, and I asked him to do it for just do it for a week. And one morning I woke up and I was watching, I went into work, I started looking at his mileage, and it was back up over 6. And I called him up. I go, what happened? He goes, I'm so sorry. He goes, my truck was running so bad. I had to see the light. I had to see the light because it was killing me. And I was like, I'm sorry. And I go, you can leave it on. We got what we needed. He goes, good, because I'm never turning it off again. And after a year of having that DPF on there, he pulled it off clean. Didn't even have to be clean. So he was so happy, and like I said, and California would have crushed him because that cat. Well, cat went off the road for a while, right? Or
Yeah,
they're off the road.
They're still off the road.
They're off the road because the
Off-road
filters. But look what it did to his truck. I mean, he said it was because it ran so bad and his fuel economy dropped all the way down to 4, and
Yeah.
it was bad.
And that truck had a lab certified piece of equipment on there to measure the fuel accurate to 1%. So it wasn't just us seeing it, he was seeing it as well.
And he did fill and check along with it too, so he verified it. But he was ecstatic. He was so happy. But
Yeah. So getting back to a 6.7, we did a 6.7 where the guy had pulled the DPF off. It was in another state. I can't remember what state it was. Same truck as the 6.4 dually, and except it was a stick shift, not an automatic. So we pulled the DPF off, put the hydrogen system on, and we got that truck. Are you ready for this? 32 miles to the gallon. A dually, 4-door, 2-wheel drive, stick shift, 32 miles a gallon. So that shows you how much back pressure is going on with these DPFs. That's a huge increase in fuel economy.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the things that whenever we do an episode, we have a lot of listeners in California, and I'll be talking with a company in Ohio or Florida or Georgia, and we're talking about this really cool product, but they can't ship it to California.
Yeah.
And being you guys are there and you're heavily focused on this, I wanted to spend a little bit of time for the truck owners that we have in California that are listening. And I guess it could be for pickups or even other types of vehicles. But from the pickup side, which is what I know, they'll ask me, they'll say, okay, well, when I go to do an emissions test, they're going to ask for this EO number. And I think you had mentioned it in the beginning that it goes up to 2010. You guys are working on the current stuff. But
the medium duty goes up higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Medium duty or 2018.
No, it's up to 19.
2019 on light duty trucks.
Yes.
So is it pretty easy for them when they do these tests or whatever it might be for them to be able to, that there's an EO number on it? It's easy for them to show it so they can confidently run this product anywhere in the state and just not have to worry about any hassle.
It's just a visual. They make sure the EOs correspond to the equipment. So it's just more of a visual. So.
And right now I kind of pulled away from carb a little bit just because we've got so many projects going on over in Australia with the companies over there. We weren't so much focused on the medium duty trucks and even California. But I'm actually about talking to carb. So the one for the medium duty trucks, that'll be updated probably in the next month or so, where we can do up to the probably 2024, 2025. That won't be an issue. And then we'll be doing the same thing probably in the next 60 to 90 days. We should have the EO for the heavy duty trucks.
Very cool.
For up to the 2024. And through that process, we're also going to go ahead and go through the verification. The funny thing about the EOs is when you get them, I reduce emissions and we show the emissions low, but I can't tell you I reduce emissions. I can tell you I save fuel, even though they don't measure that. I have to do the verification process in order to tell you I reduce emissions. So this time around, I'm going to go ahead and do it at the same time. It takes a little bit longer because it's a little more to the process, but I already know that we get 0 and negative NOx. So we're going to go ahead and do it.
Do you,
That's it. Go ahead.
With what happens in California kind of spreading out, it really, with covering emissions topics for years on the podcast, that's really kind of hit home. Do you guys find people in other states that maybe, I think they look towards CARB and they say, okay, if it's got an EO number, you can run it, here. And they kind of look towards it for guidance. Do you guys get inquiries from, any number of states where people are interested, or maybe just people who want to save the fuel economy and not buy DPFs? They just want it irregardless.
Yeah, it's globally. I mean, we get people calling us from all over. I mean, we were talking to Malaysia the other day. We've done stuff in Brazil, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Nigeria, South Africa, the Netherlands.
But yeah, we do it.
Peru,
Did work
we do
in
it.
Oregon, Washington.
Yeah, and then we do it all over the United States too. But we,
Recently.
So-
we're everywhere.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing too. You asked about the big question. The big question is because they're like, if it's so good, can it be the solution? Can it be our solution? That's what the verification process is about. We've decided we're going to go ahead and do that. We get that, and that's it. That's basically, we already know. We have the test results to show that. We just have to go through California's process.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think it helps people feel comfortable too, because they can look at whether it's an EO or whatever testing it might be, and they feel comfortable putting in this on a piece of equipment that makes them tons of money, or however they use their trucks or their equipment every day. It gives them that confidence. I'm sure that there are tons of questions that I didn't ask you or didn't think to ask that someone listening is going to say, why did you ask him this? Why didn't you ask him that? And I want people to be able to reach out directly to you guys and be able to ask, whether it's a technical question, something about maintenance, something about the onboard system. What is the best way to contact you guys and learn more information about the onboard and then also the maintenance side?
They can actually go to our website, centralvalleyhho.com, and on there you'll see all the product, and you'll be able to click on, and you can send over an email, a contact form. A lot of times if people call, we get a lot of inquiries constantly. So, be patient, because we can't always get back to them right away. We kind of filter through them. Some guys are just tinkering with their life. If you're reaching out and you're saying, I want a lot of hydrogen, I want a lot of power, we're probably going to say, sorry, we can't offer you anything right now, because that's just more of a project thing. And we've got a lot of big projects where we've got equipment going out, just doing what it needs to do and cleaning the emissions, saving fuel. So those kind of inquiries, a lot of times we don't get back to, just because we are so busy. I mean, it's constant emails and stuff. We kind of filter through them some, and it's not that we don't believe me. We would love to help and tinker and do all that stuff. We're just not there right now. We're trying to get these two so they can just keep advancing, because these two together, between his knowledge with the diesel engine and his knowledge with hydrogen, these two, they're going to change the world. It's crazy what
And
they're
on the
doing.
maintenance side, what we're doing different is we're not selling a machine to the fleet and then walking off.
He's talking about the cleaning.
Yeah, the
We're
cleaning.
talking about the maintenance side,
Yeah.
the maintenance, okay? What we're doing is we're partnering with our customers, and we're putting ourselves in a position to every day work with them to make sure that we're meeting their goals.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they do business with us on the maintenance side, we're actually a partnership with them. So this is an ongoing thing. We're not just going to sell a machine and walk off and leave the fleet, okay, on their own with our machine.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a pretty good program for that as well. And that's what we're working on now.
I mean, all of us are really passionate about helping the fleets. I mean, it's a huge thing. I mean, California has caused a lot of damage to these companies. We've watched trucking companies go out and under so many times, and it's really sad. And it's caused a lot of harm to businesses, and it goes to the end consumer, because when these companies are struggling just to make ends meet, and they've got, I mean, there's a whole report. How much does a fleet spend? Like
Fleet Maintenance Magazine did an article back in 2019, and they're putting anywhere between, which is a unicorn figure now, $2,500 a year up to $8,000 a year. That's pre-COVID numbers.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that.
And that's
you can't
per
make
truck.
that.
That's per truck,
That's
over
per
the
truck,
road trucks.
yeah.
These are big trucks. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's under the best scenario, passive regens, pulling the filters once a year, I think is what they said.
Mhm.
Well, I'm dealing with a client right now. He's looking at $336,000 just to get his 50 trucks up to standard. So we're gonna set him up on our program, and I hope that I look for him to be. I think you said what we're knocking off about 40% of your total maintenance budget.
At least.
The 40% of the total maintenance budget. So that means that about 40% of your total maintenance budget is going for emissions.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's
Crazy.
Well, that's a lot of it that I hear as well, is these companies and they're diesel enthusiasts. They might have 20, 30 trucks that they use for their company, but they also drive one as well. And they want a newer vehicle. They don't want to stay stuck in a pre-2007 truck. And they always hit that wall of maintenance costs, DPF, and those sorts of things. So it's awesome to see a complete solution offered for it that's different than what's out there. So I really appreciate you guys reaching out like that.
I'm glad we got on the podcast.
There'll be so many listeners that are happy because they've asked for us to talk about hydrogen and different applications for it on their diesel trucks, and now I can direct them towards this episode. So definitely keep me updated on new things you guys are working on, new things that come out, because I want to make sure that we're able to educate our listeners, get the information out there that they're not hearing it anywhere else in the podcast world right now. But I want this message to get out there. So definitely keep me updated.
sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys' time this afternoon. It was great. I'm really excited about the product, and hopefully we can do another one down the road. So thanks again.
Absolutely.
Look forward to it.
Sounds
All right.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 25TDP40. It'll get you 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money, get some cool gear for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different options for blade steel, blade shape, handle designs, different opening mechanisms, and their whole lineup's designed to meet any budget that you might have. So we appreciate them offering that discount code just for you guys. I also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, CUTTERUP Rob, Robert, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps, follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 9 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2025. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.